Welcome to The Obvious, Episode 4. My name is Sonny. I'm the CEO of ABC, Florida East Coast. We are so happy you're back. We're excited to spend the next approximately 20-some minutes with you. And as you know, my co-host, Peter Daiga.
Thanks, Sonny. I'm Peter Daiga. I'm the president and CEO of Associated Builders and Contractors Florida East Coast Chapter. The Obvious Podcast is a production of the ABC Florida East Coast Chapter, and unless otherwise stated, all content reflects the opinions of the guests and hosts. So welcome again back.
And it's our opinion, we're the hosts. Peter, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I was an econ major in college. Okay. And so I actually read Keynes' biography when it wasn't even required for school. That's kind of an econ nerd I am. So, I know there's been a lot of talk in our media and this presidential circle about, hey, what policies is this new candidate proposing? Obviously, the old candidate, literally and figuratively, was in power before, so we know what he did in terms of his economic policy. And as you know, the economic policies of both candidates are super important, especially now with inflation and all that stuff that's happening. This is like on top of everybody's mind, right? Kind of what the economic future of citizens, this country, how are we going to pay for stuff? How is Social Security going to operate? What's tax rate going to be?
That age-old question is very pertinent, which is, are you better off now
than you were 4 years ago? And I remember I was in college during the Bill Clinton campaign, and I had some friends who worked on his campaign, and I don't know if it was the Ragin' Cajun, I just blanked on his name.
Ragin' Cajun, Carville?
Carville. I don't know if it was Carville. James Carville. Ironically married to a Republican, a Bush Republican, so we'll take that for what it's worth. And George, I always struggle with this guy's name. I know it's not Papadopoulos. Stephanopoulos, thank you. One of them coined the phrase, it's the economy, stupid.
Yeah.
Right? And Clinton hung on to that and won an election and had a historic 2 terms. Primarily because, he governed from the center and was blessed enough to see the birth of the internet during his presidency, which really created some great numbers in terms of the stock market gains and the broader economy. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about was some of the proposed policies that have trickled out, and I know they haven't come out in writing because I can't find anything on Vice President Harris's website. But I know she gave a speech, and some of her staff and her advisors have been on TV talking about her policy. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, and bring some things to our viewers' attention and our listeners' attention that are being proposed that have never been proposed before. And certainly, if they have been proposed before, have never been taken seriously. And so I think it's important for our audience to know what this economy, what the tax rate, what the proposals are, and what it's going to look like under potentially a Harris presidency. And then hopefully most of us are old enough to remember what life was like under a Trump presidency.
And really some of the assumptions, that underlie a lot of these economic policies, I would argue, are even more important to kind of delve into and get into.
So you mean the philosophical underpinnings?
Yeah,
right.
And what kind of assumptions you make about how people behave and how economies respond and, how businesses behave. And all these things just speak volumes. Anybody can propose something and say it's going to benefit and it's going to do X, but let's look at, I've always found, for me, I've always loved the social sciences and the two, economics always, and
behavioral economics
and politics. Yep. And I've always said the reason those interested me my whole life is because, politics is about studying the decisions people make about who's going to lead them. Right. And economics is about the study of the decisions people make about, how they lead their lives economically and provide for their, their needs and whatnot. So to me, I've always found those two fascinating.
Right, and it's about current needs, present needs, and future needs.
Absolutely.
Which is so interesting to me as well.
Absolutely.
So one of the things, as we talked about in our last episode, I know you didn't watch the DNC, and I did.
You got some more clips for me?
I have more clips for you.
All right.
I was fascinated. Look, everybody knows the Obamas are phenomenal orators. They give great speeches. They are compelling and passionate, and when they speak, they get your attention. So I obviously watched both of the Obamas give tremendous speeches, but there were things in them that I was struck by that you and I discussed. We discussed in our last episode. I wanted to bring to your attention something that Michelle said.
Okay.
Michelle Obama said that I thought was very interesting.
Was she proud at that moment of her country, or not proud? Where was she? Where was she at this particular?
That's an interesting question. That is one that I will not be able to answer
Okay.
because she's not our guest today.
Okay.
So, but I am going to play that clip for you, and then let's discuss it.
All right.
You see, my mom, in her steady, quiet way, lived out that striving sense of hope every single day of her life.
Beautiful.
She believed that all
Great.
children, all people have value.
Amen.
That anyone can succeed if given the opportunity.
She's right. She sounds like
Absolutely.
a Republican. Anyone can succeed,
Absolutely.
if given this opportunity.
Absolutely.
There used to be a commercial for Southern New Hampshire University, and their president is speaking at a graduation ceremony, and they played this a lot a few years ago. And he literally would say in his speech, you have an equality of outcome, but you do not have an equality of opportunity in this country. And that used to blow my mind. I was like, no, sir. Opportunity should be guaranteed. And if there's anything that infringes on that opportunity, it should be removed. Right. And sexism, racism, misogyny, whatever it is, needs to be removed because people need to be given honest, true opportunity to succeed.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, I would say there's nothing she said so far that I could disagree with. I would, however, say I don't think their party really lives up to those standards.
Right.
You know, when you talk about, and I forget the exact word she used, I don't think we as a culture are adequately looking out for the most vulnerable in our society.
Right. When she talks about children and old people.
Talks about children and old people.
Right.
You know, so you can talk about that being a value, but how well do our policies actually, convey that? And again, back to that study, right, of politics and economics, and
Exactly.
If we're for the strong or the stronger in society being able to exercise authority, over some pretty big decisions over the very most vulnerable and weakest in society, I'm not so sure we're living up to those standards. I'd like to, and I agree with what she said, but
yeah,
I'm guessing it doesn't end there.
No, there's more.
Oh, okay.
Paul Harvey used to say, what did he used to say?
The rest of, and now for the rest of the story.
No, for the
or
rest of the story, something like that. All right,
we're talking about people that people don't know.
Nobody knows who Paul Harvey is. That's unfortunate. I hope there's some database on the internet where people can go listen to him talk.
Didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed.
Oh.
Right?
That
Took
just
more.
went right off the cliff, didn't she?
Kind of like Mitt Romney throwing
A couple
grandma off the
things that are
cliff.
really problematic there.
All right, tell me.
Well, I mean, for one, shouldn't we be a culture and a society that's more about earning? So her basic philosophy, her starting point, is that what people have, they took, as opposed to earned. Right. That is really problematic.
And this is a party that cares deeply about language and words and pronouns.
They don't use them.
They don't use words lightly. They understand that
giving good thought into what they're saying.
Words of consequences. She could have easily used the word earn,
right,
but she used the word take. Now, I Googled this because I wasn't sure. Do you know how many houses the Obamas own?
4?
4 houses.
4 houses?
Mm-hmm. They're all
multi-million-dollar homes and properties.
Homes. I believe Hawaii is on the beach.
Uh-huh.
I believe the one in Massachusetts is on the beach. Do you need 2 beach homes?
Yeah.
Or how many do you need? I don't have any, just to be clear. I only have 1 home.
Did she say in that about need? Did we get to that part of the clip?
Oh, let me play the rest of it.
They understood that it wasn't enough for their kids to thrive if everyone else around us was drowning.
But that's a great assumption too, right? So everyone...
Both the need and the old... People have long said, Democrats see the pie as...
Fixed.
Right. Whereas Republicans are more about, baking
grow the
extra pies or grow the pie. So several problematic things, right? One about the whole take, which we've kind of covered, but the whole idea of need, to your point, do you really need 4 multi-million-dollar houses?
Yeah.
So is she talking about herself? Probably not.
Probably
She
not.
probably doesn't have enough internal, insight and self-awareness, if you will, to realize that what she's saying is, does she really need that many? Did she take it?
So according to
Or did she earn
Google, her and President Obama are worth approximately $70 million.
Not bad for a community service organizer, organizer.
And most of that was made after the presidency, which, book deals and Spotify and Netflix and all of that. I understand. And, listen, I want them to make $700 million. I don't begrudge anybody their success.
Right.
I want them to be like, make as much money as you can. Do good with it, do bad with it, it's yours.
Right.
It's up to
Just
you.
don't lecture the rest of the world about taking more than you need.
Right.
So,
and to me,
who determines need, by the way? And this is a big philosophical difference, right?
Yes.
I think between
who does determine need?
Who determines need?
Right. Does she need more than $70 million to live?
Right.
I don't know the answer. Right. She might.
And in our society, do people need $100,000, $1 million car, or do they need a car that goes, 150 miles an hour? I mean, we could go on and on about need, but our society is not. It's not formed around that idea.
Right.
Not really formed around need. I mean, and again, back to earlier conversations and earlier podcasts, I am a believer that the Republican Party is closer to my concept, my outlook on the proper role of government, because I think there are things the government has to do and can do only better as our government as opposed to individuals. And I'm also a believer, although I think it first and foremost should come from the community. But I think there are some ways the government can legitimately help. Mm-hmm. There are some evaluations of need that the government can step into. But I think she's going way beyond that.
Right. And I don't know the answer to this. Maybe it's just this Bernie Sanders-like love affair that they have with Northern Europe, right? And you look at Sweden, you look at Denmark, you look at the Scandinavian countries. There is a view that they are only going to sort of consume what they need, but they kind of live it. But it's also easily done when you're a country of 6 million people or 4 million people and you're homogenous and you all speak the same language and there's an accepted cultural trait, right? And then you're like, fine, I'm going to pay 50%, 60% in taxes, but the government takes care of my health care, my transportation, right? All of those things. But again, you can kind of pull that off, and you're seeing that sort of system now fall apart because immigration is causing tension there. And crime has gone up because the societal norms that you all agree to live by are being broken. Right. By people that aren't from your culture. Yeah. And so if there's no sort of cultural hegemony, it's gonna fall apart, and which you're seeing that happen now. But that's not what, but then also, if you look at the stock S&P 500 or the Dow Jones, how many Northern European companies are there? They don't have the innovation, they don't have the success, the economy, the businesses, the companies that change the world.
Yeah. It also struck me, to have this woman talking about need. When again, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Is it a need to not have to be paying 100 or 200% more for groceries and for gas and for, to be lectured, about need? There's no doubt that economically, I think the lower and the middle class of this country is suffering a lot, especially in these last 4 years. And then to be lectured about, have you taken more than you need? Well, again, it boils back down to that age-old, are you better off now, than you were 4 years ago, I think. So, I mean,
every economist will tell you inflation is a tax on the poor.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And then multi-millionaires lecturing you when it's their policies that create the environment for the inflation, on how somehow it's your fault because you took more than you needed. To me, that's fascinating. But if that's the underpinning of a party, if that's the philosophical underpinning of 40%, 50% of the country, what sort of policies can we expect from somebody like Vice President Harris? What is she gonna propose? And she's come out with some.
Not a lot of flesh on that.
Not a lot of flesh on it,
but a little, and we should pay pretty good attention.
We should pay
when they speak about what they want to do, right?
Absolutely. One of her proposals is raising the capital gains tax, which I think is right now at 20% to 44.5%. You know, the amount of investment that happens in this country because capital gains is manageable is tremendous. And it creates jobs, creates businesses, it creates funding for companies. And to me, it's so interesting that she wants to more than double capital gains tax. When it's no longer, like, capital gains is no longer a purview of just the rich. Everybody, you know, so many people are in the stock market, so many people own real estate. Any sort of an investment is subject to capital gains. By the way, philosophically speaking, it drives me batty that you take money that's already taxed, you buy an investment, and if you make any money on that investment, then it gets taxed again. But anyway.
The multiple ways in which we're taxed.
Yeah, it's just,
you know,
we could do a whole show on that.
You know, you got, yeah, of course, you got your payroll taxes, and then when you get what part of it, and then you go to spend it, you're taxed on what you buy, and you know, and then you're anyway. We could go over.
We could go on and on.
You know, the bottom line again. The question people should be asking is, you know, is the size of government, you know, big enough, or not big enough? Right. You know, how has it impacted you in the last 4 years, 8 years, you know, whatever period you want to look at in terms of the policies? You know, those are the questions we should be asking.
And what do you want it to accomplish if you wanted to get
exactly?
I would love to know that.
Exactly.
One of the things I wanted to share with our audience, one of her chief economic advisors, Bharat something, was on CNBC yesterday. He did about a 7-minute interview. We're not going to play the whole interview for you, but we will show you some clips of what he said, which really kind of blew my mind. And I wanted to deconstruct with you kind of some of the things that he said. And one of the things he talked about, and it was in reference to a specific policy, and he basically said, well, this only affects, and these are his words, a small sliver of the population. And then later in the interview, he said it's 60,000 people. And I couldn't get over the fact that, and the left does this constantly, right? They'll come up with a bad idea, and then they'll say, well, it doesn't affect most people.
A lot of talk about division, you know, in our country. And, you know, when you know, some people are, you know, experts at it.
Right.
You know, there's only a few of us over there, you know.
So let me play that clip for you.
I mean, and again, when they're talking about policy, we should pay attention. Mm-hmm. We should pay attention.
Absolutely.
So let's listen to it.
Inherited wealth, and that's an entirely different story. But a lot of people who have worked their whole lives have put money into the stock market as a savings plan to make sure that they're saving money over time and allowing that to appreciate. That's money they already paid average wage taxes on. And that then goes into capital gains. Our stock market has done very well because you have capital gains taxes that are lower. It's an incentive for people to invest. If you take that away, what's the potential in terms of what it means for the market?
Again, look, this new rate would apply to a very small sliver of folks on the capital.
Very small sliver of folks. And to me, a bad idea is a bad idea.
Absolutely.
Right? The idea that
it's not a small sliver if the effect of your policies are going to restrict, corporate development or business development or creative new ideas that might employ the next million or the next, who knows how many millions. Right. It doesn't affect. It's always, first off, a very narrow focus. Never mind the fact that even the narrow focus, without looking, more macro economically about the impact it might have. Just even the narrow focus is, man, it's insidious. It's awful. It's almost borders evil.
Yeah.
To when you want to just say it's just a few there, because there are a lot of really bad moments in history.
Right.
A lot of bad moments in history where that kind of approach has led to some really bad things.
The us versus them concept.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So we are running out of time. So what I think we'll do, we will come back and we will do another episode where we talk about the rest of our economic policies and just kind of do a deconstruct that, because certainly we don't want to keep our audience waiting, so they won't have to wait too long for the next episode.
Sorry, I got a lot to say.
I know you have a lot to say. But just wanted to say thank you for joining us. Thank you to Peter. Thank you to our director. Our camera guys, our whole team just does an incredible job, and we want to thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed it, and look forward to seeing you for the next one.
Yep, and send us some comments and like us. I think there's somewhere you click, subscribe, right below somewhere. And then if you want to send us some comments, you can always email us at theobvious@abceastflorida.com. See you next time.